They said I was too green, too quiet, too unpolished for their internship. So I didn't beg, didn't argue. I just walked away and built the empire that now signs their paychecks. They thought I wasn't ready for a cubicle. Now I decide who gets the corner office. I walked into the building like it was a cathedral. Pressed shirt, borrowed tie, shoes polished so hard you could see the tension in every step. I wasn't from some fancy school. No Ivy League crest on my chest. No relatives in the industry. Just me. A name most people skipped over in the resume pile. Jake. But I wasn't looking for a handout. I was just asking for a shot. It was my final year in college. I had scraped together 3 part-time jobs and sleepless nights to keep my GPA up. This internship was supposed to be my pivot, the chance to prove I belonged in rooms like these. When I stepped into the waiting lounge, the air changed. Everyone there looked like they were already mid-career. Designer blazers, summer abroad stories, last names you'd seen on law firm plaques. I sat straight, quiet, clutching the resume I had printed at the campus library that morning. Then they called my name. Interview room 4C. 3 of them sat across the table. A guy with glasses who didn't look up, a woman who skimmed her tablet while I spoke, and a senior partner who leaned back like he was interviewing someone beneath his time. I answered everything: market trends, financial strategy, even suggested a campaign pivot based on their recent quarterly report, the one they accidentally posted early and then took down. Still, they didn't care. No nods, no notes, just a sigh when I brought up my college. Community college? One of them asked, half smirking. That's admirable. They thanked me for coming. That's it. No handshake, no follow-up questions. I walked out slower than I walked in, because something in me already knew. They weren't looking for potential. They were looking for pedigree. The rejection email came 2 days later. Generic, cold. We've decided to move forward with candidates who better align with our company's culture. I wanted to ask, what culture? The kind that ignores effort and hires last names. But I didn't. Instead, I saw something else. On social media, a post from one of the interns who did get the role. He was at the rooftop terrace of the company building, glass in hand, laughing with the same team who rejected me. His caption read, "Met a kid in interviews who said passion could beat connections. Cute." I didn't comment. Didn't DM, didn't even share it with friends. I just closed the app and opened a blank notepad file on my laptop. And in that space, where anger would have boiled, I wrote one line. One day, this will be my company. I didn't mean it like a dream. I meant it like a plan, using the revenge script structure, silent, strategic, and emotionally precise. I didn't waste time being bitter. Bitterness makes noise. I needed silence. Silence is where real work begins. I stopped trying to be chosen and started choosing myself. I graduated, not with honors, but with hunger. My first job was a warehouse analyst in a forgotten logistics firm. No glass buildings, no catered lunches, just spreadsheets, forklifts, and people who clocked in without ego. I stayed late, not because anyone asked, because no one was watching. They didn't care that I once dreamed of finance boards and corner offices, but I did. And while they slept, I studied business law, corporate structuring, startup capital, M&A, not on someone's dime, on mine. One course at a time, one rejected application at a time. 3 years in, I had enough knowledge to build something of my own. I launched a consultancy, small, anonymous. My name wasn't the brand, the results were. We helped struggling companies fix the one thing no one in those big towers cared to understand: execution. Not slides, not meetings. Real bottom-line execution. Revenue came, slow, then steady. And soon we weren't just consulting. We were acquiring. Startups with weak foundations but strong bones. Companies the big guys laughed at, like they once laughed at me. And one of them had something valuable. A stake in a holding company that owned a majority share in the very firm that had rejected me all those years ago. The firm that laughed at my passion. I didn't gloat, didn't send emails, didn't show up in the lobby like some triumphant hero. I signed the paperwork in a coffee shop. No entourage, no fanfare, just a pen, a contract, and a new voting block that gave me leverage no intern ever had. In 4 years, I went from overlooked to overseer. They didn't know it yet, but their next round of decisions, would need my signature. And the best part? I still hadn't spoken a word. Built on the revenge script model, quiet moves, real leverage, no emotional outbursts, only control. The firm was hosting its annual general meeting, the same building where I once waited in the lobby. Tie too tight, hope too high. But this time, I walked in through the side entrance. Shareholder access. Security nodded, not because they recognized me, but because they were told to. Inside, the lobby buzzed. Polished shoes, forced smiles, name tags with oversized titles, and not one of them knew that the company they still thought they ran now belonged in part to the intern they once rejected for being too unpolished. I wasn't there to brag. I wasn't there for closure. I was there because a motion had been proposed, strategic restructuring of senior leadership. I had helped draft it, helped rally the smaller shareholders who felt voiceless for years, and most importantly, I had enough votes to make it pass. The board wasn't ready. They never are. People who live in glass towers rarely believe in storms, but the numbers didn't lie. Margins were down. Turnover was high. The last product rollout had flopped. They blamed market conditions. They blamed Gen Z. They blamed soft consumer sentiment. But no one blamed leadership. So we did. My consultancy, now rebranded as an acquisitions firm, proposed a buyout offer. Not hostile, not aggressive, just persuasive. We outlined how leadership had failed, how performance was stagnant, how fresh eyes could rebuild faster, smarter, stronger. And just like that, those same executives who had once laughed at me behind closed doors, they now sat quietly, watching their futures hang on a vote. The chairman asked for objections. None came. Then he asked for votes. One by one, hands went up. And finally, mine. Calm, measured, final. The motion passed. The board was dissolved within 48 hours. The new slate was approved, and I was named interim CEO. Not for vanity, not for revenge, but because someone had to clean up the mess they spent years hiding behind buzzwords. And when the press release went out, it wasn't my name that made headlines. It was the irony. Formerly rejected intern, named CEO of firm he once applied to. Somewhere a few of them must have remembered me, the kid who wore a wrinkled shirt to an interview, who smiled too wide, who didn't fit the mold. But now I was the one remolding the company from the inside out. And I hadn't raised my voice once. Revenge script mode, strategic silence, visible results, and poetic power reversal. No gloating, just impact. The first Monday after the leadership transition felt like any other day. Except it wasn't. Executives showed up at 9 a.m. like usual, coffee in hand, laptops open, ready to play the same game they always had. But this time, the rules were different. Their access cards worked, but their calendar invites didn't. Meetings were reassigned, departments were streamlined. The redundant layers of middle visionaries were replaced with actual operators, and quietly desks began to empty. HR didn't send memos, I did. No rage, no dramatic speeches, just a simple line in every email. Effective immediately, your role has been retired due to strategic restructuring. They called it ruthless. I called it overdue. Because the truth is, those who mocked my potential had no idea what it would look like when it matured. They thought leadership was about control. I knew it was about clarity. They thought I wanted revenge. I only wanted results. In 60 days, we had trimmed bloated budgets, refocused the product roadmap, rebuilt trust with clients who hadn't felt seen in years. And internally, morale started shifting, because the janitor who'd been ignored for a decade now had a direct line to my office, because the single mom who'd never been offered flexibility now had work from home Fridays baked into policy, because the intern they once laughed out of the room was now the name on every major decision. No neon signs, no ego trips, just quiet corrections. And just when they thought I was done, I moved the company's HQ, new building, new culture, new future. The old office, sold. The same interview room where I was once told, "You're not the right fit for our fast-paced team," now sat empty. Because the team had changed, the pace had changed, the future had changed, and I didn't need anyone's permission to lead it. Revenge script style, no drama, no speech, just power that doesn't need an introduction. I never announced it, never posted a CEO life photo, never threw a party with champagne and speeches. That's not how real victories look. Real triumph? It's showing up to the office you now own and having the same people who once ignored you hold the elevator door. It's watching the team you rebuilt hit quarterly growth targets they once called impossible. Not because you shouted louder, but because you built smarter. One day, a former board member came to visit, the same one who once suggested I was too emotionally intelligent to handle leadership. He shook my hand, a little too long, asked if I'd considered writing a book about my journey. I smiled. No need. The results are already written. Then walked him past the wall of team photos, where the janitor, the part-time admin, and the coffee intern had equal place next to execs. No titles, just faces, the people who actually moved the company forward. That's the thing about quiet triumphs. They don't bang on doors, they redesign the room. My name wasn't plastered everywhere, but it lived in the pay raises, in the policies, in the new maternity wing built from redirected marketing bonuses. They didn't need to clap for me. Their silence, their changed posture, their sudden respect, that was enough. One evening, I walked through the empty office floor, soft lights, polished floors, the hum of computers going to sleep. On a whiteboard, someone had written, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." I erased it and wrote, "Clarity writes its own future," because that's what I had learned. You don't fix broken systems by shouting at them. You outgrow them, outlast them, and eventually rebuild them. And when you do it right, you don't have to tell your story. The building itself tells it for you. Revenge script style. Still, reflective, powerful. Less about proving, more about becoming. I used to think success was loud, that one day I'd stand on a stage, look down at the people who once doubted me, and hear the applause I never got when I needed it most. But now I know, success isn't about being seen, it's about being undeniable. The internship I was rejected from, that office is 3 floors below mine now, and the manager who called me too green for the program, he now sends quarterly reports with my name in the subject line. But I don't need revenge anymore, because I've built something greater than recognition, relevance. They can't move forward without brushing against my decisions, without adjusting to the systems I put in place, without answering to the legacy I've started to leave behind. Not because I shouted louder, but because I lasted longer. And now, when young interns walk through the doors of this company, scared, unsure, hoping someone believes in them, they don't see glass ceilings. They see proof. Proof that rejection isn't the end. It's redirection. Proof that being overlooked can become your biggest advantage. Because when no one's watching you, you get to build without limits. I never wrote a tell-all, never made a comeback video, never tweeted a thread about how I proved them wrong. I just kept showing up, until one day I didn't have to anymore, because I owned the place. Legacy isn't what people say about you when you leave the room. It's what continues because you were in the room. The systems I built, the people I promoted, the culture I protected, all of it, started because someone said I wasn't ready. And now, they don't need to remember my name, because the foundation carries my fingerprint. The office I was denied, it became the ground floor of my empire. And me, I'm not looking back anymore. I'm too busy clearing the path forward for the next nobody who just needs one quiet chance to become everything they were told they'd never be.